Hey guys, Bart from TST Industries here. In this video we're going to show you how to install this TST Industries integrated taillight and Undertail system on a Honda Grom. The system replaces the OEM fender and all the lighting equipment and moves your signal lights into the taillight capsule. So let's begin. So in the first step, we're going to remove the seat. Then we'll proceed to remove these Phillips head screws. Then we will remove these two fasteners. In the following step, we'll be removing these two Phillips fasteners, followed by this Allen fastener. And finally, hex screw. Now we will move on to the left side of the bike and we will remove these two Phillips fasteners from this side. And at this point, we'll start removing the screws from the bottom of the bike here. Now this side is all loose. We will take this panel and pull it outwards. That will give us access to this Phillips fastener and this hex fastener right here, which we will remove right now. Now we'll remove this Phillips fastener right here. And at this point, we will be removing the rivet type fasteners. There's one right here, one right here. Push in the center and pry it out. This one here pushes in from the bottom. Again, you want to push in the center, that unlocks it. And the one remaining push fastener is located right here. Again, we'll press in the center, pry it out carefully. Now we will loosen this panel here and gain access to this last hex head. We will remove that hex head. And now our tail fairing assembly should be free to come off. Work it loose from the bike gently. And pull it off. In this next step, we will be removing the tail light from the bike. First step in doing that is to loosen the wires from their routing guides. And that allows us access to this plug here. To remove this plug, there is a tab right here. You just pull up on it and the plug will slide out. Now we will remove the 10mm nuts from the back of the light. Now the light should be free to come out. In addition, we will remove these shoulder washers here. All right. And now we can proceed to remove all of these wires here. These are the wires that connect all the fender lighting equipment to the fender. There's a tab on the plug. Just press it down and withdraw the plug. Make sure this wire is free of all guiding geometry so that when we remove the fender, it'll be free to come off. So now we will proceed with the fender removal. To do that, we will remove these 4 hex fasteners. What I like to do is first crack them loose, and then while supporting the fender from the bottom and manipulating it if necessary, getting the screws undone. So now that I have all the 4 fasteners removed, I will pull this whole assembly towards the rear of the bike and route the wires through the sub tray. And now this part's out, put it to the side. So in the next step, we'll be cutting back some of the sub tray here. This is a very important part. We need to make sure that we get it right. So the subframe components here mark on the sub tray where it needs to be cut back. I'll just take the sub tray off the subframe to illustrate this better. What we want to do is cut the sub tray, the plastic part here, along the line connecting these 2 subframe components, basically like this. Okay, I'll snap this back in place so it's easy to use a saw on. Additionally, what we want to do here is there's a wiring routing component here, and it just snaps in from the top to the bottom. So what I'll do is take it out at this point. It's going to be easier to cut this component. This is out. Snap this back into place and we will proceed to the cut. So just before cutting the sub tray, what I like to do is protect the exhaust right here. What I'm going to do is install a piece of cardboard over the exhaust so that in case your saw blade slips, you will not risk nicking the exhaust here. So the first layer will be this piece of cardboard, and then next layer will be a shop towel or a piece of cloth. Now we can proceed to cutting this sub tray here. What I like to use is a typical hacksaw. Other methods can probably work. This is the easiest one. And again, using the subframe components as a guide, I will make a clean cut straight across. So now that we've cut this back to here, we're also going to have to eliminate this bump. What I like to do is use diagonal cutters and just cut it along the bottom surface of the sub tray. Get it as flush as possible. And then follow up by filing it down so it's completely flush with the bottom surface of the sub tray. Now that I have this surface flush, I'm going to go over the whole cut area just to clean it up and have it burr free. All right, this looks neat enough now. We can move on with the rest of the installation. I will now remove this protective stuff here. So for the next step of the installation, we will need to remove the harness from the fender portion that we took off in the previous steps. To do that, we'll need to remove these 4 screws. In addition, there's 1 rivet type fastener here. To remove it, we need to press in the center and then pull it out. And now this back cover should come off freely. Okay, so we are interested in this part of the wire with the plug. Feed it through this subframe component here. Slip off the boot. We will unplug all these. All right, so you have your signal leads here and the ground for the signals. And this remaining set of wires here, we will cut it back to all the way here. There is a set of wires in there. One is green, which is ground, and one is yellow. Those are the wires for your license plate light. For the purpose of this video, we will not be installing license plate light, so I will just tape these off. And the reason why I'm taping them off for now is I don't want them to ground to something and cause a short circuit. When you're ready to install a license plate light, you will just remove this tape and wire your license plate light right into these. All right, now that we have this harness ready, we can transfer it to the bike. Now we will need to reinstall the sub harness that came out of the fender onto the subframe here. We'll plug it into this plug that it came out of originally. Slip the boot over it and then route it up through here, through this guiding clip. And for now, we just leave it right here and proceed with the tail fairing reassembly. All right, now it's time to put the tail fairing back on. If you notice, since we cut back the sub tray, these locations will no longer receive screwed connections. One of these screws will be used in an alternate area towards the end of the install, and we will indicate where. So for now, we'll just slip this fairing over its mounting geometry. Make sure to get it in without scratching any of the plastics around, and also making sure that all the wires are routed inside of the fairing. All right, and now that that's in place, we can begin replacing some of the fasteners. I'm going to start with these hex head screws here. What I like to do is just get them on just kind of finger tight and allow myself some freedom here so I could still adjust everything before I tighten it down. I have another hex head that goes in here. And then I will have a Phillips and a hex head on the other side. All right, so now in preparation for installing the TST components onto the Grom, we will take the tail light and the bosses that the tail light attaches to and pre-assemble them to make the next step easier. So our bosses are designated with an L and an R for left and right. We will arrange them right and left, and we'll arrange the tail light the way you see it from the back of the vehicle, right, left, and we will superimpose the tail light mounting features over the bosses. Now we can empty the contents of the hardware bag for the TST Industries kit and grab two of these little M5 screws and also two of these washers. We will use thread lock. I recommend using blue thread lock on these. Just a little dab on each of the screws. This will prevent them from spinning out during vibration. And now we can take each screw and a washer and fasten them into the bosses through the tail light. Do that on each side. We'll first do it by hand and then follow up with a tool. Snug them up a little bit. And now we're ready to take this along with the undertail over to the bike and continue the installation. Okay, now we will be installing the undertail and the taillight on the bike itself. First, we need to get the wires in from the bottom to the top, and we will align the taillight bosses with the subframe where they will be screwing in. Now we'll take the undertail, insert the tabs into the accepting geometry here. And while holding the undertail here, we'll droop down the taillight and make it go into the undertail. Now we will need to fit these portions of the undertail under the bodywork here. We'll grab one of the screws from the TST hardware kit, feed it through the undertail and to the top. And now we will take one of the locking nuts and a washer and go to the top. Drop the washer over the screw that's protruding from the bottom and thread on the nut. We will leave this finger tight for now. We'll grab the second screw, feed it through the bottom, and from the top we'll drop another washer on top of that screw and a locking nut. Just a note here, the star component of the nut should go towards the washer. That's how the locking mechanism works. I'll thread this bolted connection in, and while looking from the back, I will align everything and make sure everything is fitting properly. And this looks good. If you've purchased one of the optional TST Industries fender eliminator kits, at this point we will show you how to install them along with this undertail system. For the first installation, we will use our standard static license plate holder. What we'll do is undo one of the bolted connections that we previously put in, holding this whole assembly together, and just reinstall it with the bracket in place. What I'm going to do is keep it fairly loose here so I can manipulate this bracket around. I'm going to remove the other side screw, insert it through the bracket, through the undertail, and to the top. All right, now I will snug it up just a little bit while still keeping it loose enough that I can make my final adjustments to the entire system. I'll make sure that all the gaps are closed here. Once I have this all adjusted properly, I will tighten up these two bolted connections. Once this is tight, we can move on to installing all the wires in the appropriate places and plugs. In case you purchased this adjustable fender eliminator, we will remove this one and show you how to install this one in its place. So if you are using the adjustable fender eliminator, the screw will have to go through the top, be inserted through one of the taillight bosses, and now it will protrude from the bottom. That screw will now screw into one of these bosses, and the other screw will go in the other side and screw into the other boss. What we want to do here is just bottom it out, but still leave it loose enough so you have some adjustability. And now you want to adjust this entire system so all the gaps are closed. And then using a tool, tighten it down from the top. And now you have an adjustable license plate bracket here that you could adjust to whatever angle you like. From this point forward, the rest of the assembly requires just plugging in wires and reassembly of all the components that we removed in the reverse order of this assembly. So let's go ahead with the wires. So now I will take the main taillight plug and harness and route it properly. You just want to have it tucked away in here, and then it needs to go beneath this fairing mount here. And now we can plug it into the taillight plug. Once we have it all plugged in, we will tuck it away, and remember to replace that routing clip under here. It's like a tab that you just bend down. So you just press it down and make sure it's holding the wires out of the way. Now this wire will go into this routing clip, and then we will press this together so it stays. And now we will plug in the signals from the taillight into the harness. You have green to orange and brown to blue. Slip the boot cover over this, and what I like to do is make sure that all these wires are tucked away. There's no chance of them getting snagged in anything else, especially under here where the seat latches in. And make sure all of that is tucked away. Now we will test the functions of the light, make sure everything's connected properly. We have the running light, we have the brake light, left signal, right signal. All right, we'll now reassemble all the other fasteners, all the other components, and tighten everything up, and then we'll be done. We'll start the reassembly by tightening up this bolt here. Now we will place this fairing back in place and reinstall this bolt in this location. Okay, reinstall the cap here along with the screw. There is a key here that fits into this hole. Prevents it from rotating. Now I will replace this screw and this screw. Now we'll go over to the other side and reassemble all the fasteners on this side. We'll first tighten up the screws that we previously put in but didn't tighten up here. This Phillips and this hex. Now we'll replace this fairing. This fairing does have a tab that needs to be fit around the mating geometry there. Just be careful when you replace that. Push the fairing back in place and replace these two screws here. Now what I need to do here is replace following fasteners here and here, but do not tighten them down just yet. What I want to do at this point is have these screws in, but provide enough adjustability for this so that we could press it in and make sure the line conforms to this line and also closes the gap here around the undertail, and then tighten it all the way down. So the screw that came out of this location will actually be used in this location along with this locking nut from the TST hardware kit. What I'm gonna do is just put it in place for now. And from the top, in this location here, put in the locking nut. Now that you have the nut threaded up, you can just snug it up just a little bit, still leaving enough adjustability here in this plastic. And using an 8mm wrench, we'll now have to press in the plastic towards the inside, same as we did on the left side. And now tighten up this screw. So we will take one of the screws that came out of here. These are not being reused. We'll use one of those screws in this location here. This screw has a slightly larger shoulder, so it would not fit in this location. That's why we needed to swap these two. All right, and at this point, you'll be replacing these rivet type fasteners, and one remains unused because we replaced its location with a screwed connection. At this point, you can replace the seat. Install your license plate, and you're ready to ride.